Alright, so hey guys, I wanted to take some time off my stream to quickly show you how you could already start preparing for Valorant. I think we all are very excited for Valorant and we want to pick it up as soon as possible. It's not clear yet when the beta will drop, for example, and all that stuff, so we have to get some specifics, but the question really is, what can we do in preparation before we get our hands on the actual game? So in my opinion, the best thing you could do if you have not already picked up Counter-Strike, go into Counter-Strike and play Counter-Strike, because from what I could tell from all the gameplay we have seen so far and from what the devs are telling us, it will be quite similar to what Counter-Strike is. But what I maybe want to start with is the differences. So as you can see in Counter-Strike, we have nades like the frag grenade that explodes on impact. We have the flashbang that, if you look at it, will blind you. We have the smoke grenade, which of course will just make it impossible to see through it for a couple of minutes, seconds. And then the decoy that just makes a noise so people can think that somebody is there when there isn't. And the Molotov, which is quite similar to some of the abilities we have seen from the Valorant hero Phoenix. So as Valorant is very different in this regards, we won't do anything about nades. I think the mechanics in Valorant regarding this are quite different. So we have to get our hands on the game to actually see how to work with them. So this is something I don't want to focus on right now. What I want to focus on is the fact that from what we've seen so far, gunplay will be very, very similar to Counter-Strike. If you look at the gun menu, they probably have actually the same guns, just named a bit differently. And even there will be something that's already confirmed, like the AK that will one-shot enemies when shooting in their head. So this gives us the ability to say, look, if you haven't picked up Counter-Strike yet, if you have, great, continue to practice it. If what you want to do though is do it the right way. You want to really focus on getting your aim to the top level if you want to rise in Valorant and hit the highest ranks. So this should be a quick crash course in how aim is working currently in Counter-Strike, and my biggest tips I could think of off of my head right now to improve your aim before Valorant drops. So you are really up at the top of the player base when it drops. And aim is really important, even with all of the abilities. It's already confirmed from many things we have heard from people. Aim will be one of the main things. These abilities won't be like Overwatch where they dominate the game. It's more like the nades in Counter-Strike. It's situational. You have to buy some of them. And so aim, I think, will be the biggest factor of determining who's a good player and who's a bad player, in addition to how they handle their abilities. So the biggest first step to aim is to understand that what is your DPI, EDPI, how fast are you moving? So within the game, you always have a slider. If we go into the settings, then it's over here, mouse sensitivity. And I assume it will be the same in Valorant. You will have to determine what is the mouse sensitivity. And the biggest mistakes people keep making is if they come from consoles or if they come from games like Call of Duty, they usually push this very high. Or they have the mouse DPI. So in most mouses, you can also change your mouse sensitivity, or they have that very high. So the first thing you have to understand, high sensitivity is a bad thing. What we want is the lowest sensitivity to provide us with the most accurate aim while remaining still kind of movable. So in theory, the lower the sensitivity, the more precise you could aim. But of course, if you put it too low, so let me quickly do that maybe. Let's put a sensitivity of 0.1, just to make my point. Like, of course, I could aim very, very accurate here, but I actually can't turn anymore. So, of course, you want to be able to move quickly. But at the same time, many people are then saying, look, I need to have the high sense. If somebody's behind me, I need to quickly turn around. And that's the first mistake, because in these kind of tactical FPS that Counter-Strike is and that Valorant will be, it's a round-based shooter where you can kind of predict where your enemies are. So if I'm taking this for example, if I'm a terrorist here and I want to go on the B bomb side, if I run in here, I already know like somebody could be here, somebody could be here, Somebody could be here. So I know the spots where people could stand. So the thing is, I don't need to move a lot. I just need to make this movement, and I can do this with this sensitivity. Maybe sometimes I want to do this quick flick. Sometimes I just want to clear the bomb site when I don't know where anybody is standing, like this, where, well, that's a bit too fast, but where I want to be as close as possible to this line and just slowly go like this. So if there is somebody, I could stop and just shoot them like this. So that's the first thing. You want a low sensitivity. And how to best determine how low is the perfect for you. So I would start pretty low. There are guides out there. I mean, if you wanted more detailed look up guides to determine your CSGO sensitivity. I think it's applicable. But in theory, let me quickly make maybe something like this. So this frame. In theory, you want to be able to move and still move your cursor along with it. So it's kind of stale. If you can do this, it's right. By the way, I'm using, so let me quickly show. I'm using a bigger mouse pad, because if you have a high sense, you need a bigger mouse pad to move a lot. So maybe I'll do this for a second. You really have to use the width of your mouse pad to move along. Let me do it maybe like this. So this is kind of the perfect setup. You need a big mouse pad. Let me make sure I put this right. All right. You want to have a big mouse pad so you are able to move the mouse a lot. And then you want to do this. What would happen if my sense would be too low? Maybe I show that also very quickly. Yeah, look. So now I really move a lot. I move my hand a lot right now, but I can't keep it in the square here. I just can't. It's impossible. And if I do it too highly, so that's the case for many people out there. Let's just take my sense and, yeah, look at this. Look at this. This is crazy. Like, I probably can do it, but you can already see that I want to keep it on the B right now, and it's hardly possible. And 4 is not even what people mostly are playing out there. Most people are using much, much higher sensitivity. So really want to keep it low to be precise. So that's my first thing. So you want to determine the sense. Your mouse also mostly has a sensitivity slider. So you probably want that at 400 or 800 dpi. If you don't know how to change your mouse sensitivity, look it up. Some mouses out there probably won't allow it. And I personally use Zoe mouse. It's a Zoe mouse, the FK1. So in my opinion, for me personally, the FK1 is the perfect mouse. It has a very nice click, and it is very easy to change the DPI there, and it has a good sensor, so it's very accurate in picking up the signal. So that's what I'm using. So at the end, you can also look up in the internet some settings of the pros. So somebody like Shroud or somebody like Summit 1G and people like that all mostly publish how their setup is. So I'm playing at an eDPI of 800. That's, I think, close to many of the pros. eDPI in the end is whatever the setting on your mouse is times whatever the setting in your game is. So if I have on my mouse 800 dpi, and on my game I have 1, which is for me the case, I have a 800 eDPI. So this is kind of, so my first takeaway from this section, I would say, is the foundation on which you want to build your aim and your skill in Valorant is having the right sensitivity. If you play on a too high sense, you will never reach the level of people that just play at a lower sense more effectively. So I would say there are people that can make 1600 eDPI work. Anything above that, I would doubt that you could reach a good level of gaming with that high sense. Okay, so that's the first thing. Determine your sense. Make sure your sense is right from the start, because everything else is based on muscle memory and learning, and you won't have that learning if you change your sense around a lot. So if I'm changing constantly from my sensitivity from 1 to 2, I have now a certain muscle memory. I know to move from here to here. I know the movement. If I now change my sense to 2, I have to reduce that movement, but my brain probably won't know that immediately. So first, I will mess up all my muscle memory on how I have to move my mouse to do that. So yes, the foundation is pick up the right sense for yourself. Make sure you determine what works for you here, and then you want to learn how to peak things. So this is also, I think, something that Valorant will do quite similarly, as it is a round-based tactical first-person shooter. You will have this, so this side that attacks and this side that defends, and as an attacker you want to have entry frags. So by the way, I'm focusing on very specific things in this video. There's a much broader context. Of course, I can't explain the whole of how aim works in CSGO in this video. I just want to make sure that I hit some of, my opinion, the most relevant points. So if I want to make a play here, what you can do, you can sit back and hope that your team opens up the map by making a kill here. But I personally think it's more important that I also have the skill to do that, because if you want to climb, you want to also keep your team moving along. So in order to do that, mostly you will know, once you know the maps, where people will stand. So for example, Dust2, if I'm fast and directly rushing from our spawn after the waiting time is over here, I know that the maximum people can get is probably somewhere around here. So what that means is I can do this, and then I can quickly peek. And mostly there is an AWP here, so one-shotting everyone who dares to peek. But what you can do is pre-fire. So, oh, wait a second, I messed that up. So if you already expect an AWP will be there, because, for example, you already played a few rounds and know there is a certain player on the opposite team that likes to take that spot, just pre-fire him. Without seeing him, I'm already prepared, and as soon as I'm peeking out, I'm shooting, no matter what. So even if nobody would be there, I would be doing that. And I'm ducking because it reduces the size of my body, so it might mess up the aim of the AWPer. So this is the one way. So you know where certain spots are where people can stand. When we are new to Valorant, we probably won't know that. We still have to learn like how people like to position, where people like to stand. So what you want to do then is you want to really slow peek stuff. So you probably want to peek quickly, and if you see somebody, he will then shoot, and you can quickly peek out, and then you can peek out again after he stops shooting and try to pre-fire him. So that's always a good way. Or if your sense is low enough, you can try to keep your cursor here. So when you're peeking, you don't have like a big flick to make. A flick is called this one, where I don't use my whole arm, I just use my wrist. Maybe I'm quickly showing that again. So this is a flick. I'm using my wrist. If I'm normally getting out here, I'm using my arm, because it's really easy to make these controlled moves with the whole arm. If I want to make a quick flick because I see a target there, I can do that with my wrist. So in Valorant, we probably still have to learn the spots. So I would maybe quickly check this, check this, check this, check this, because I don't know where people could stand. And yeah, I think at the start that's the right way to go about it. But what I would remember here is you want to be able to flick on enemies' heads at the start, because at the start you can't really know where people are. So flicking will be more common at the start. So stuff like this. Because for example, I don't know the map. I'm peeking out here and I see somebody's there. Oh no. Then I quickly have to flick over here. So that will be more relevant at the start, as well as just slow peeking. So something like that. So I think that's in general what I want to get out of this map. So I quickly want to make you aware of that gunplay will be very similar in Valorant, that you can already start pushing up your aim skills by working with the right sensitivity and practicing Counter-Strike. So the way you want to practice in Counter-Strike, and then let's do some more examples. If we want to really skill up your aim, what I did, when I started Counter-Strike over 7 years ago, I was super bad. I used to play P90, which is like a spray and pray gun for very, very low tier. And I just used to get into games and just press my left key as soon as I got the weapon and pick maybe up some kills and maybe not. What you want to do is play the more skilled weapons that get you more up the ladder, which is the AK and the M4 and the AWP if you're good with it. But in my opinion, you should start with AK and M4 to just get your base aim right, because there will be many rounds where you can't pick up an AWP. So in low tier Elo, there are also many people that play just AWP. You also need to be able to work with other weapons than AWP. So I would recommend, if you start picking up this game, start with AK and M4 to really learn the aim. So you can download maps from the workshop in Steam. So there are some maps that I would recommend you to just use to get up your aim. I did the same, and in the 7 years before many of my ranked games, so usually when I boot up Counter-Strike, I usually go into these maps first, warm up, and then I'm going into rank, because this keeps helping you remember, keep the muscle memory in your brain, and helps you also gives you the edge. It just gives you the edge. So there are 3 maps that I want to recommend. Well, actually 2 plus deathmatch. So the first thing I'm loading up here, and that's a super, super, super good map in my opinion, Fast Aim Reflex Training. It's so simple, and at the same time, it's so important that you get this right. And I hope we can load this up. So yes, so you can download it from Steam if you have Counter-Strike. And yeah, so you want to go CT on this map. This map is just you standing in the middle. Please don't move, because that else it won't work. So you just use your right arm, and there are bots, and they just move towards a point here, move towards you, and your only task is to kill them. So what will this do is it will be very similar to what, well, not similar to what you would see on a ranked game, but it will at least like tell you there are people moving and you have to hit their heads. So there are certain things that you can practice on this map. You could just have your crosshair somewhere like this and let the people run into it, and then hit it at the right time. You can practice that. Then what you could practice here is flicking. So I place my crosshair next to them on purpose, and then I flick it on their heads. And then the next thing you could practice here is tracking. So what also could be helpful is just trying to keep the crosshair on their heads. And I'm not very good at this because I just started Counter-Strike again, and I haven't played it for a couple of months now. So that's also something I now need to train again for Valorant. So yeah, normally and this is also where, back to my point about the right sense. If you don't have the right sense, it will be next to impossible for you to do this. But yeah, you want to really keep your cursor on the heads of the bots. So these, in my opinion, are the 3 things you can practice in this map, and it's really helpful. It helps you with your flicking, it helps you with your pre-aiming and clicking at the right moment, and then it helps you with your tracking. These are 3 very important things to have, in my opinion, if you want to learn aim. So this is how you can treat this map. And by the way, you can then just buy random weapons and try them out and change the difficulty on your bots and stuff like that. So this is a very helpful map for these 3 things. Then the other map that I want to show here is this one, Training Aim CSGO. So this is where you are in a more real training environment. Before it was you shot at bots that are moving in a very predictable pattern. This map probably is more geared towards really practical aiming. It gives you the framework to practice a lot of different stuff here. And so what I do is I first boot up the bot map, and then I boot up this map. You could probably do it the other way around, but I always start with these 2 maps when I boot up Counter-Strike. So in this map, All right, so you are on your own. You can decide which weapon you want to train. So let's go with the AK. I always try to use the AK. There are 5 training modes here. Classic, fast aim. So that I always do one by one. So I basically start with this, and then I do this, then this, and then this, then this. So I always start here. So what this is 25 circles will pop up, and you have to hit them before they disappear. So if I don't hit them in time, this will happen, and I just don't get the count here. And at the end of the round, you can see how many you have hit. So with the slow version, you probably want to hit all 25, if I'm honest. Oh, by the way, I'm not looking right now. No, all right. So at the end, you want to have 25 here. If you have less, you probably want to continue to practice, continue all of these aim trainings, and just do it day by day and start to get better. So this was really just, it's also kind of a warm-up. It's very like you have to have a bit of muscle memory, and then just move your cursor on it in 0.75 seconds. So if you want to train to flick, you could probably turn that down to 0.5. So then you have to flick. You don't have time to just... This helps you also with your flicking if you turn down the time on this. So yeah. What you then want to do is angles and sliding. So this, in my opinion, this is what you can immediately see when you go after this into a deathmatch, that this really helps you with getting a structured aim. So instead of me doing like kind of this, you know that you have like of a crosshair that you can move on, and it gives you this very predictable muscle memory. Very, very predictable muscle memory. So you shoot every time you shoot in the middle. You want to shoot at the red circle and then back in the middle. So that's how this map works. And you probably want to aim at around 60 here. So 1 per second. So this is what you want to do on this one. Then this is just reflex training. So I think you have 0.24, yeah, 0.24 seconds. So if the circle turns blue, you want to shoot it. This is something, in my opinion, that's also hard to train, like reactions. If I'm focusing, I can probably do it, but if I'm not focusing, like in a game, then it will be hard. Burst training, and this is the one thing that I would say you can't directly convert to Valorant. So everything I mentioned before, in my opinion, very likely that you can use the skills you pick up here one-to-one in Valorant. Burst training, probably not. I don't know the burst patterns yet of the weapons, but it's very likely that they will change from what Counter-Strike did, because that would be a copy if they just copied the burst patterns. So normally what you would do here is just practice your burst, because obviously if I don't manage my burst, it would just go like this. So as this pattern never changes, you can practice to hit more shots in a row by pulling down your mouse. And the mechanic in itself would probably remain the same for Valorant, but yeah, the pattern won't, so it doesn't really matter. So you could ignore the burst training for now. And then intensive fast aiming for me is well, I usually try to go very high here, so it's just bubbles popping up and you shoot them, and I usually do this up to 400 to 600. It's again good training for your muscle memory. If you want to make this more challenging, you can turn down the time. But for me, it's not about doing this quickly. It's more about the muscle memory in itself. So I know like how to move my mouse, and doing it faster isn't really changing that for me. So I usually leave it on 0.6, but you can obviously turn that down. So if you want to turn that into 0.3, it's probably a lot more about flicking. So yeah, this is what you can do here. By the way, you can modify the way the circuits look. So right now they look like this. You could also do something like change the color. The red probably is the best. And then you could also modify the size. So this would be like head size in Counter-Strike, if you want to headshot. So yeah, this is the second map. Also, in my opinion, very, very valuable. And then after I played a bit on these two maps, this really helps you improve your aim, you want to go into, one second, community server, there. So in the community server browser in Counter-Strike, there are a lot of deathmatch servers, and these deathmatch servers are perfect to improve your aim. As everything I showed you before is more in a synthetic environment, so some of the stuff won't really translate well into ranked matches because you do have a different mindset in there. You're much more under stress. You don't know, like, you want to win these games, you want to rank up. So in a deathmatch, it comes much closer to the situations where you just are not confronted with what you know. 1 second, let me quickly change my gun. So what you always want to do in these deathmatch servers, in my opinion, is 1 second. You want to play with AK, because if you hit that headshot, you want to be rewarded for it, because you want to train your aim here. So in this deathmatch server, you're just trying to get your aim up, and yeah. It's really just that easy. It's just deathmatching to get your aim better. And you can do this for whatever time you like. Every minute in deathmatching helps you aim quite a bit. What it doesn't help with, and this is the last thing I want to make very clear, these tactical first-person shooters are always about game mechanics and game understanding. So aim is one part, might be the most important part, but you also want to understand the game, how rounds play out, where players are standing, if you could predict where certain players will play, and all that kind of stuff. So this is stuff we can't pick up right now. This is stuff that we have to play the game for. So everything regarding detailed game mechanics and game understanding, we have to wait for the beta. But as I said at the start of this, if you want to get ready for Valorant, the thing you can do is jump into Counter-Strike, do the maps and the deathmatching that I just outlined, and just get your aim up. And then you should be ready for Valorant. Thank you.